Hello, everyone. How are you? Hope you're having an incredible day, and may peace be upon you. Thank you for watching the show. It takes courage. With me, your host, Dr. Izdihar Jamil. My husband, Rizal, says, I got my dream job. Do you want to move to America? And I say, okay, babe, let's do it. I left my job as a computer scientist with a PhD and my family in Malaysia. So Rizal, myself, my 4-year-old son Abrar, and my baby girl Nadra, we moved to Orange County, California. And not long after settling in, I stopped at Whole Foods to get some dates. And I'm wearing my hijab, my head covering like I always do, when another shopper, middle-aged white guy, says to me, are you a Muslim? And I say, yes, I am. Then he says, well, I have read the Quran and it says that killing in the name of Islam is permissible. Are you going to blow yourself up? And I'm thinking, dude, do you even read Arabic? But I say, I'm doing my groceries. I've got young kids. I'm not going to blow myself up. Then he says, if you're not a mom, are you going to blow yourself up? And I can feel my whole body just shaking. My chest tightens. I could not breathe. I had to leave. Then a few weeks after, my baby Nadra is having the worst tantrum ever. And as soon as Riza comes back from work, I say, babe, look after her. I'm taking a shower. So I'm washing my face when I hear bang, bang, bang. Calm down now. There's police officers waiting for you. So I drop myself off, put on my hijab, pick up Nadra, and then go downstairs. And I see two police officers in full gear, guns over their shoulders, fingers on the trigger. Ma'am, your neighbor says there's a baby crying. Why is your baby crying? Because she's a baby. He checks her out. Nadra cries even louder, but there's nothing wrong with her. So they leave. Now I'm too scared to even leave home. To cheer me up, Riza got me a present, an online course, so I can be an online coach and consultant. I can work from anywhere and still be with the kids, which is exactly what I want. I don't want to work at Google from 9 to 5. I want to be with my family and empower other people. So I study the course. One of the things I have to do is go live on social media. Mother's Day 2018, I put on a pretty pink top, some makeup, a floral hijab. Just before hitting the live button for the first time, I freeze. People gonna think you're a terrorist. And I say, God, help me be brave. Turn on the camera, freeze again. Prayer, camera, freeze for 30 minutes till I finally hit the live button, shared my message, and then cried. Then I do it again the next day and the next and the next and the next. It isn't easy, but I persisted. Today, I'm a #1 international best-selling author. I've been featured on Forbes, TED, TV, magazines, hundreds of media, and spoken to thousands of people around the world. No person should ever have to be afraid of who you are, and your unique voices should be heard on prestigious platforms around the world without prejudice. And this is something that I want to talk about, you know, having this adversity that is coming at you. Mind you, darlings, adversity is going to happen, okay? You are going to be tested over and over and over again. But the question is, how are you going to be in that situation? How are you going to be in that situation? And how are you going to be after the situation? What lessons are you going to be taking? Look, when the police came, at my home with my baby girl Nada who's crying, and then with the incident at Whole Foods, you don't know how many times that I've spent crying, being scared, and the multiple times when I've played victim because it's so traumatic and my experience is just too much. It's so traumatic. I couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. And I was getting sick. I was getting sick. I couldn't function as I should to. I was like, having this body, but everything else is checked out. I was getting ill. I couldn't get out of bed. I was stressed out. I couldn't sleep. It was a lot. It was a lot. And many of us are going to be faced with various types of adversity, whether it's social, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it can be spiritual as well. So I wanted to share with you some tips that I have learned over the many, many years and how I have personally overcome social adversity. And more than that is having the courage to share my voice out there, to put myself out there so that people get to see the truth, so that people get to see the version of me that is not being skewed by society, preconceived notions, or even the media. And then there was this time when we went to Seattle to visit our family. So it was me, my husband Rizal, my daughter Nadra, my baby Nadra, and then my son Abra. It was a few years ago that we go to Seattle to celebrate Eid with our family there. So Eid is a religious celebration that we celebrate. It's usually straight after the month of Ramadan. So the month of Ramadan is when we would fast from sunrise to sunset for the whole month, for 29 to 30 days, as part of our commitment and devotion to our Creator, to our faith. So it wasn't an easy thing, right? So we were not eating or drinking from sunrise to sunset. And then that alone is truly a mind over body kind of experience. Training the mind, how the mind is strong, and then helping it with the body, and for the body to listen. But more than that, if one of these days I will do a show about fasting in the month of Ramadan. And I was thinking to myself, if I were to fast because to lose weight, for example, and not because of a higher act, a spiritual act. In my case, it was spiritual act or something higher than losing weight. I probably wouldn't have survived. No, I probably wouldn't have survived the whole month, right? Look, we do break our fast at sunset. That's the time when we break our fast. That's the time that we get to eat, we get to drink, we get to do whatever that we want to do. And we always start the day, we always start the fast with a time called suhoor. So suhoor is when you start to eat something. So there we are after fasting for 30 days. We go to Seattle, the first time going to Seattle to see our family. We just moved into Malaysia then. So in the morning we would go to our prayers, and after the prayers we would go to visit people, to send our greetings, the celebration, and we were invited to go to over to this person's place. I don't even know who that person is, and our family, our aunt and uncle was like, we have an invitation, this person invited us, let's go over. And then I'm like, okay. So me, Riza, Abra, and Nadra, and then our family, our auntie, our uncle, our cousins, we all go to that person's place. And there was amazing food. We met people. There were quite a few other people. And then I started to talk with a couple of them. So, and then I started to talk with this lady, really young, I don't know how old she is, but she's pretty young. She may just have started her career or may just, a few years along with her career. So we started talking, and by that time, I just moved into America. I left my secure job in Malaysia so that my husband can have his dream job. So I left my secure job. I left my family. I left my culture. I left everything that I knew so that my husband can have his dream job. So I was talking to this lady, right? So as I was talking to this lady, and she started to ask, "So where are you from?" And then I said, "That's where are you from?" And then, "Who are you here with?" "I'm here with kids and then my husband." "Oh, we actually live in California." And then, I asked her, "What does she do?" She talks about her work, which is, a really professional. She has a professional, high-paying job, which is fantastic for her. And then she asked me, "So what do you do?" And then I'm like, "I'm home with the kids. We just moved here from America." So, you know, and, and then she says, "Oh, so you're just a housewife." And I can feel everything in me just crashed. I'm like, and I kind of like for moments, I kind of believe that what she told me, like I'm just a housewife, it truly is. That's all that I ever am. Forget that I have a PhD. Forget that I have a high profile paying job back home. Forget everything, like forget my professional career. I'm just a housewife. And that is the thing when you're just being reduced to a certain stereotype. Let me tell you, okay, being a housewife, being a stay-at-home mom is one of the hardest things that I've ever done. One of the hardest things that I've ever done. I would, like going out to work, having a 9 to 5 job, sometimes I feel it's easier than being a stay-at-home mom because you're always on. There's no paid leave. You hardly get promotion. You don't have any days off. Nobody's gonna pat you in the back when you did a good job. And you're like on all the time. It's hard because taking care of the kids is demanding, and that's a decision that I made when we moved to America because it's such a huge shift. My kids were young. Abra was 4, Nadra was 12 months old, 9 months old then. So it's such a huge shift for me to like, oh, suddenly leave them here and then go out for job. My husband works. My husband already has a very demanding job. And then to have me as well working, I just felt that in that moment that I just wanted to be there for my kids and my husband, to take care of them, to settle everybody. And yes, I could have found, like I said in my story earlier, that a job at Google or Facebook or one of the universities here because I'm highly qualified. I have a PhD in computer science. I have industry experience. But having been reduced to just a housewife, in that moment, I just felt like wasn't great. Okay. So it's kind of one of those things that you feel like not just you yourself, when society have a preconceived notion about you, and then you start to believe that you started to think, oh, that is you. I'm just a housewife. I am no ordinary house. I'm a freaking awesome housewife. I'm, intelligent, smart. I'm highly educated. But having that perception of being reduced is like, oh, okay. And like I said, some of you are maybe experiencing other forms of social adversity, whether it's from physical, emotional, spiritual, it could be from your family members. It could be when you go out, like me, I go out to Whole Foods to get some dates, and then suddenly this middle-aged white guy started to ask me a question if I'm gonna blow myself up. And I'm like, what? Where did that come from? and that just shook, everyone shake you off. Or your neighbor calling the police on you because your baby is crying. I mean, like, okay, she's a baby. Look, I understand, one of the neighbors would assume something would happen, because, my kids, when they cry. They're very expressive, okay? That's how my kids. But what I've always thought is that she's a baby. And not only that, if you truly cared about our well-being, why don't you just come on the door and knock and ask if everything's okay? So I feel that as a society, there's a lot of things that I had to work on myself in order to overcome the social adversity. But there are things together as a society that we can change, that we can make a difference. Rather than having an assumption, rather than having a judgment, rather than having a preconceived notion, that neighbor could have come and knock on my door and, ask, is everything okay? Instead of calling the police on us, right? As well as the police would come in full gear, as if they're going to go on tactical mission or something, rather than coming to a home. They were in a full gear, guns over their shoulders, and literally their fingers were on the trigger. And I'm like, it's one of those things that I would never forget, that experience, right? Of having, I get it, as a law enforcement people, law enforcement people don't necessarily have the best reputation, and also that their job is very, very dangerous. You wouldn't know what's going to happen, right? You wouldn't know what's going to happen in that moment. So I understand that you got to be prepared for any circumstances. You got to be prepared for any circumstances. But literally coming to someone's home and I'd be like, what? There were two of them. So one was like really, really serious, like serious, and the other one was, a little bit more compassionate and understanding, and started to see me just probably like, and I just literally came out of the shower, right? It's been a long day. I'm tired. Nadra was tired. So he had, some compassion in us, which I'm really, really grateful and really touched by it. That he says, you know what, I have kids myself. I think he said he has three kids. I had kids myself, I really get it. And I told the officer, it's been a long day. I'm really tired. She's throwing a tantrum, you know. And in that moment, it kind of like the officer had a connection with me, like from one parent to another parent. That, oh yeah, okay, we get it. So which is just calms me down. But of course, that had an effect on me, right? Had an effect on me, on my husband, on my son abroad, who was about 4 years old, 5 years old. So it had an impact on them in that moment. So I feel that, one of the ways that we can have the courage to overcome social adversity, that as a society, that we're open to being open and accepting with each other's differences. And rather than making an assumption, judgment, preconceived notion, just because someone that is different, or calling the cops on them, right? Why don't you go ask what's going on? I get it, there's safety issues, right? The safety issue, you probably might be worried about your safety and everything, which is a valid point of view, but hey, come on, like, I like, I have two hands, I have two eyes, I have a nose, I'm the same like you. So the moment that we can overcome that block, that barrier, that judgment, preconceived notion, I think the more that we can start to be accepting and feel safe with one another and seeing that person for who they truly are. For example, Like the officer started to see me as one parent to another who's not having such a great day. It's hard work looking after young kids. And those are the things that we can be mindful and be thinking about. And one of the things that I talked about in my TEDx talk, Coming to America, a story of a hijab wearing woman, is that there is this specific incident that happened that is not what we were expecting. So let's take a look at what the incident is.
Are the only one with a bag of dog waste on our doorstep. Then, in a soft little voice from behind me, Nadra says, "Mommy, why are they doing this to us?"
So that was the incident, one of the multiple social adversity incidents that at that time it was really hard to be accepting. It's really hard to, to forgive. It's really hard to get over things because it was really hard and things that happened wasn't normal. But now, when I looked at things and I have a reflection on things, that I'm like, all I can say is, Alhamdulillah. Well, thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for showing me the way. Thank you for showing me the pathway. Thank you for allowing me to be brave. And I start to see all those adversity as gifts and lessons and wisdom for me to have a better life and in some way, hopefully be able to help other people. So that incident was one of the things when we just moved in and everything here in America. It was our first home in America. And then one day we heard a knock on the door. Knock, someone was knocking on the door. And then Nadia says, "Mommy, someone's at the door." Nadia was still very, very young then, so she was like, her expression was someone's at the door. So both Nadia and I, went to our door and opened it, but there was no one there. And then when I looked down, right on our doorstep, there's a green plastic bag full of stuff. And I'm thinking, what is that? And then suddenly, oh my God, is that what I think it is? So I crunched down, untied the knot, and opened the bag. And the smell was awful, awful. Someone had literally thrown a bag of dog waste right on our doorstep. And I'm thinking, who would do such a thing, right? So I go out and I look to my right, I look to my left, and there are 8 doors in our apartment block. And ours are the only one with a bag of dog waste on our doorstep. And then from behind me, in a soft little voice, Nadra says, "Mommy, why are they doing this to us?" I just broke down and I said, "God, what did we do wrong?" To having your child seeing that kind of adversity, she could not comprehend. And until today, she's 8 years old now. And until today, she still remembers that incident, right? So she could not comprehend why would someone do that. And then and I would like really like knock on your door because they wanted to find out. And it wasn't something that was um accidental. It wasn't accidental. Someone literally put that thing there, but they literally knock on the door for us to find out. So it wasn't, an easy thing. And then I had so much fear. I had so much anger. Like I was thinking, like we've done the biggest mistake coming to America. Make a biggest mistake. Why are we even here? But then, rather than hiding, right? That was I was doing a long time. Rather than hiding, rather than being scared, rather than doubting myself, I decided that I'm gonna put more of myself out there because I feel that the more I hide, the more that I doubt myself, that I'm not being heard. And who would have known, right? That incident would actually lead me. I first shared it in my books. I think it was either Yes I Can, A Woman Who Lead, but I shared it in one of the books available on Amazon. And then who would have thought that from that incident, I've shared it in my books, I shared it in several interviews, I shared it in front of stages, in front of people, and then it led me to give a TEDx talk in 4th of December 2021, talking about that experience of overcoming social adversity on the impact it has to me and how did I overcome it. And that's what I did. So rather than hiding, being scared, rather than doubting myself, I decided that I was going to put more of myself out there so people start to see me more on multiple books, on various TV shows, on various interviews, stages, magazines, TVs, stages like TEDx stage, right? One of the most prestigious stages in the world, the most prestigious, influential stages in the world, TEDx stage which is one of my dreams for many, many years. But having the courage to share your voice, putting more of myself out there, putting more of yourself out there, I think that's a smart move. Because otherwise, how are people going to know about you? How are people going to know that how your belief, your roots, your ancestry, what you value the most? If you look at me, I'm just like you. I'm just like you. I'm a woman who's passionate about education. I'm a woman who consistently and continuously contribute and volunteer at her community. I'm just like you, who's a mom and who's a devoted wife and a loving mom to her children. All I want to do is do my best and be proud of who I am and be proud and courageous of who I am. I was raised by good parents who taught me about kindness, who taught me about respect, who taught me about family, who taught me about community. The same like you. Those are the things that I value the most. So that I could not comprehend why people would see me the way I look because I wear the hijab, because I believe in certain things, because my faith is Islam. But people could not see me past all those preconceptions. They put me in a box, and that hurts. For years, I could not function to the best of my ability because I was so consumed with this preconceived notion. People can talk about me being victimized, being a victim, which did not serve me. But then I decided, my voice is worth sharing. So I started to put a bit of myself out there. I started to write in books. I started to write a little bit in magazine. I started to speak. I started to, God forbid, do Facebook Live, right? In my story. I'm like, oh my God, it was so scary, like going on live for the first time on social media, on Facebook, where I'm going to be judged and everything, put myself out there, thinking I might be called a terrorist. It took me 30 minutes to pray, froze, Right, said my prayer. I froze to press the button. Said the prayer again, and I froze. And I feel that, the revolution to overcoming social adversity isn't to blend, change, conform, or transform yourself to fit the preconceived notion of society's checklist, but rather to be proud and courageous of your roots and heritage, and to be open and accepting of each other's differences. I think when we have that, when we started to put ourselves forward a little bit, step by step, and also be accepting of other people's differences, of their culture, of their religion, I think that's when we can start to see a shift in our society. And my TEDx talk was dedicated to one message alone, to one person alone. My TEDx talk was dedicated to one person alone, one message alone. So it was dedicated to Nadra, my daughter, who's now 8 years old. And I can see a world that she's going to grow up. And I don't like it. It takes balls to wear the hijab in America. It takes balls to wear the hijab in America. It takes balls to be who you are. Even if you're different, even if you look like everyone else, it takes balls to be who you are. And more importantly, as a society, it takes balls for us to be open and accepting of each other's differences. So that message was so that Nadra was 8 years old. All the other little girls and little boys from all around the world can have the courage to be themselves, be proud of who they are, and to not blend in or diminish yourself in trying to fit in. Because that's not what you're meant to be. You're meant to shine your light. You're not meant to diminish or lower yourself just because you fit in. You're going to see that it's going to cause friction because there's no way you can fit in. If we have the courage to be ourselves, and more importantly, or equally as important, have the courage and have the compassion to be open and accepting of our differences, our children can live a better life for the highest good. Look, I grew up in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, it's very multicultural. Malaysia consists of three of the biggest races: the Malay, the Chinese, the Indian. Okay. So right from the beginning, right from in school, we have different kind of races in the same classroom. And I remember that our teacher would always encourage us to sit with another person from a different race, because otherwise, we'd be really, really cliquey, right? Because integration, having, being accepting of one another is key, not just in the classroom, but for us as a nation. If we can't be in each other's space, if we can't appreciate and celebrate and accept each other's differences, we're going to be in trouble. So, for example, during Eid, right? So Eid al-Fitri, Eid al-Fitri, which is, the celebration that we celebrate after the month of Ramadan. So my friends and I would go to each other's houses, and some of my friends who are non-Muslim would come to our houses to celebrate. My neighbors would come to our house. My neighbors are Chinese, Indian, and even Malays would come to our house to celebrate. And when it's Chinese New Year, guess what? Our families would go to Mr. Tan's house, who is our neighbor. Mr. Tan, Mr. Tin, Mr. Key. We would go to their house to celebrate. And I would remember that we would eat this mandarin oranges on Chinese New Year because it's supposed to bring good luck when you eat them. So we had lots of them. And then Mr. Tan would always give us like a red ang pao or the red envelope with money in it. And it has to be a red color because they call it, it's got the ong. It's got the ong. It's got like the like good vibe in it. Like, it's like good fortune kind of thing. And then the same when it is Diwali, which is the festival of light. So I would go to my friend's house, Yogeshini. So I would go to her house. She would be making coal, this beautiful pattern. She would draw them on the floor, and then she would take, I think it's rice, like colored rice, and she would like make patterns out of it with a flower, like the middle would be pink, and then the with the yellow petals or whatever that is, and I would be doing all that with her. And then on Diwali, we would be having food together, maruku. So it's this integration that I've always been raised upon since I was young. So for me, when someone is different, they have a different beliefs, culture, background, religion, I could see past those things. And then when I come to America, the land of the dreams, we waited 3 years to come to America, with so many protocols, bureaucracy, checks, and all that interviews. We waited 3 years for our dream, for my husband's dream. My husband has a dream job that he's worked so hard for. And then all of a sudden, being presented with this social adversity, I was crushed. And I'm thinking, why couldn't people see me the way I am? And from someone who has a lot of confidence growing up, and then being faced with that, as I had this notion that people are not going to accept me. So, and then there I am here, like years later. I think it was last year. I think I wanted to join this mastermind group. So, in this mastermind group, I was then accepted to speak at the TEDx stage, TEDx Outgoing Women. So it was, I think, 6 weeks before my TED Talk, and I wanted to have, I just wanted to have I wanted to be the best TEDx speaker, okay? So, I trained with the best, and part of it is joining the mastermind. And then I look at the people that joined the mastermind, and they're so beautiful. They're like typical American, blonde, brunette, blue eyes, green eyes, and then that was me. Talk about insecurity, right? So I talked with Dawn, who is the wife of the trainer. And I told her, that sounds good, but I don't think I'm going to be accepted. I don't think they're going to accept me because everybody's blonde or brunette. And the only one with a hijab. And then she said, you're undeniable. You're undeniable. The moment you start to accept that about yourself, you're going to be undeniable. So, a year passed. It just happened last week. I met Dawn. I went to the same place again. I was trained by this guy called Bo, who is Dawn's husband. And I had the opportunity to speak on stage for a sentence. I mean, I'll take a sentence on stage anytime. So, and then I said my sentence. I said my sentence. So, my sentence was, it takes balls. So there I am, going up on the stage. I was so nervous. Still am nervous when I speak on stage. And when it's my turn, I will walk to the stage, right in front of the stage. And then I said, it takes balls. With hand going up like that, and smiling and everything. And then I didn't know that they took a picture of me. And then I started to see that picture. And then I was like, I said, me? I look really good on stage, for someone who's like scared going on stage. And towards the end, I said, I went down, I hugged her, and I said, thank you. And then she was like, didn't I tell you you're gonna have a great time? Didn't I tell you this? Didn't I tell you that? John, she's beautiful, right? She's beautiful, but she's also like a grizzly bear, like a mama bear, like she will protect us. Didn't I tell you? Like, because she could see something in me that I couldn't see myself. And then she's like, I saw you on stage. I saw you on stage. And you said that you're not going to be accepted. People now are freaking obsessed about you. And I just cried and I said, yeah. And I was like, I look really good on stage, which I did, which is it's taken a lot of work. So having said that, overcoming social adversity is the key to expansion, the key to your growth, the key to you having the courage to share your voice, to share who you are, who you truly are. And let's take a look at my take on overcoming social adversity.
I love sharing women's. My name is Dr. Izdihar Jamil. I'm a media expert and I'm a mom of 3. I love sharing women's voices without prejudice. I love hearing the voices on prestigious platforms, whether it's on books, on TV, on magazines, on podcasts, on TED, or Forbes. Their voices should be heard. I grew up in Malaysia, and in Malaysia we have the 3 biggest races, the Malay, the Chinese, the Indians. I always grew up in a multicultural country. And because of that, I was really comfortable with who I am, what I stand for, how I look like, what I wear. And then I moved to America in 2015. But what I didn't realize, the American dream that comes together with American dream is the social adversity that I have to deal with. In all those instances, like people couldn't hear my voice. They just had this preconception and judgment and prejudice against me just because I look how I look, I wear the hijab, I'm a Muslim woman, I'm an immigrant. So that's the point where I'm kind of like, I need to do something about this. Because I wanted to hide, I wanted to doubt myself, I just wanted to not go out. But it's not serving me, it's not serving my children, it's not serving the people around me. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do more of myself out there. I'm gonna put myself out there on TV, on magazines, on TED Talk, on books, on interviews, podcasts. Like there's gonna be like more of me out there so that people know, hang on a minute, this is not right. What she looks like this, but actually she is like this. It takes courage to wear the hijab in America. And that's kind of how the online coaching business and consultancy started with me helping my best friend. And then I helped the next women and the next women and the next women building their business, making sales. And now organically throughout the time, I've moved into media and authority building, because I've understood that over time, this is what I truly am fighting for your voice, for my voice, for my children's voice, for our voices to be heard. Today, I'm a best-selling author. I've been featured on Forbes, TED, TV, magazines, hundreds of media, and spoken to thousands of people around the world. No person should ever have to be afraid of who they are, and your unique voices should be heard on prestigious platforms around the world without prejudice.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And that is how you can have the courage to overcome social adversity, just by sharing your voice. Until your next episode, with me, your host, Dr. Izdihar Jamil, tell yourself, yes, I can. And so it is done. Take care.